Hello, everyone. Oh, I did that last time. Well, as a matter of fact, tonight on tonight's program, without me going through that German imitation, instead we're going to move from the last show. As you know, we were dealing with music, and this time I thought we'd move more into tonight's program into the world of mathematics and philosophy and explore this question: why it was that Pascal was interested in the theory of probability when, if you think about it, what was the odds to begin with of somebody being born with the name Blaise Pascal? At any rate. Oh, and one other thing, since last time, that other show, we were contacted by a great-great-great-grandson of J.S. Bach. And he says that he personally, I guess he's trying to resent what we said, doesn't see anything at all wrong with a grown man wearing a wig as long as it's powdered and nicely set. I felt obliged to pass that along. For you people just tuning in on cable, to tell you right quick, the first half of these programs, more or less, the 30 minutes, are taken up because we understand some of you are only getting the second half of these hour programs, tapings, are taken up by the reading. People read what are known as Kyroots said, which are fables, axioms, adages, fairy tales, rumors, slander, news items, news rumors. And as they're being read, the page number, as they're being read, is flashed on the screen, off camera, and people here in the studio audience write down ones that strike their fancy, and then it's put on a list, and somebody is selected every night to try and make some comment on this, and tonight is my night. All right, here we go. And I'll read out the ones before I make any comment, if I do. At least nobody from Tchaikovsky's line wrote me. I just did that one. Well, I'll tell you what it was. I'm not going to read it. Well, it was a guy at Kyroots said it was a self-discovery workshop, and the guy got up. Maybe I should. And he told the conferees, this self-discovery workshop, he said, if you'll make a fist with both hands and extend your first and little fingers out straight at about a 45-degree angle, and then if you try to walk like as though you're trying to hold a number 2 pencil between the cheeks of your bums, he says, it will contribute absolutely nothing to your betterment or well-being, but at least it's a certainty, something you can count on. There is one later tonight, those of you who are listening, I was here, most of it, and I heard it, having to do with mentioning that which seems to be humor at one level. So, of course, that even made me smile. That's not the point. But it sounds sort of funny, except the guy ends up saying, but at least it's a certainty, something you can count on. Would you consider, let's go into self-help. It's normally considered to be the field of psychology, one-time religion, but let's say psychology. All the way from Freud, Papa Freud, up until today. There's 2 or 3 guys walking around on PBS doing these workshops. These right there on TV at no charge, helping you psychologically. But, as those of you that don't know, as in any profession, as opposed to a business, at least in the Western world, a profession, part of what makes a profession is they do not guarantee by law, at least common law, they do not guarantee results. A doctor, if you never thought about this, a doctor, a dentist, an attorney, the professions, there's a difference between that and a regular business, that which is just licensed, because under common law and some statutory law now, if you go and get your transmission fixed, for instance, in most cases, no matter what the warranty says, there is some guarantee. If they say, this is what's wrong with your transmission, you need the differential solenoid coil replaced, and I'll fix it. If they do it, at any rate, they guarantee that that's what they did. Now, in a profession, there is no such guarantee as to success. In other words, you can go back to the transmission place and say, it's not fixed. And regardless of what attitude they have, at least you have a basis of action to sue the place because you paid if you got your receipt. You paid them to fix it. And so they guarantee, whether they want to or not, there's a kind of an implied guarantee. Whereas the difference between that and the professions, religion, psychology, all the professions, they do not guarantee results. They guarantee that they're going to give you services that are standard for the community. In other words, what it amounts to is they're going to give it their best shot. Well, that's really what it amounts to, but it has to be the best shot, this kind of the prevailing best shots of everyone else. So they're not forced to guarantee results. They guaranteed that they give it their best effort. This guy, although a bunch of you laughed, I heard you. After all that silliness and him doing this, he said, if you'll do that, this is what he told him in this workshop. Of course, that was the fourth day of the conference. Who knows what kind of shape they were in. But at any rate, he says, if you'll do this silly thing, he ends up saying, it will contribute absolutely nothing to your betterment or well-being, but at least it's a certainty. Think about it. Think about the insanities that you could imagine in life, that people have imagined in life. Think about ordinary people in the past and even today in literature and etc. doing satires, doing parodies of everything from religion to psychiatry, and why it strikes people as being humorous. Not just people who are overtly anti-religion or psychology. Beyond that, just fairly reasonable people that have no great axe to grind against religion, let's say. They can hear a parody done of religion. And they not only laugh, let's say with a minimal amount of hostility, there's something else going on, they don't know what it is. And what it is, I suggest to you, what this represents. That if you did something, it's almost the opposite direction. This is pretty good for one I wasn't even going to touch, isn't it? Remember, it's a self-discovery workshop. And we'll assume the guy was supposed to be, you're expecting to be somebody, a nice suit and a beard and charts and stuff. And he suddenly tells you to do this silly thing and immediately points out this will do absolutely nothing to contribute, will contribute nothing to your well-being, but at least it's a certainty. You can count on it. In other words, anytime you want to, try to do that, and it's not going to do anything to help you. Does anybody see any connection? How about the institutions of life? How about the sanity of organized collective life? Of course, it couldn't run like this, but notice, the higher you get up into the echelons of civilization, no offense to you guys who work on transmissions, but down at the level of simply trades is one area. But the higher you get up, the more civilized it is, the less there is specific demands and expectations, even legal. That's why I'm telling you, when you get up, you consider the far stretch of the spectrum of endeavors of humanity in civilization, let us say, would be from a bricklayer to, let us say, a psychiatrist, a brain surgeon, a neurologist. All right, a bricklayer, no offense. A bricklayer, if you call him out and say, I want a little fence to build around the garden, he says, okay, and he writes, I'll do it, and it'll be 3 feet high, and you all agree, you write down what it is, and he said, $400. And you pay him the $400 by check or your credit card, and he bills it, and you come out there, and it is not 3 feet high. You have got a course of action. The man cannot plead. He cannot fall back upon something having to do with, well, I'm a professional, and I did what I thought was right. The courts will not accept that. Let's say you're a bricklayer, and we got the contract here that you and the guy signed there on the back of a paper towel there in his house, and you said, well, you said you'd do that, and you're going to do it. Don't tell me you simply got to live up to the contract. All right. But the further you get removed from that, which would be sort of the beginnings of civilization, fairly, it doesn't take as long in some states to become a bricklayer as it does a psychiatrist. But notice at the area that seems to be fairly crude, fairly not requiring great theoretical classroom instructions. No great length of time to learn how to do this. You go from that into the areas that do take 12, 15 years of your time, and you understand that the more you get to that end, the less, even the law, which is always indicative of what civilization is up to. I'm not just saying the law is right, but it is always one of the primary, it's a better reflection than religion and psychology, those of you that ever want to consider it just for a second. But at any rate, the more you get into that area, the less the law, which is, I'm saying to you, is like the headlight on civilization. It is the avant-garde of how civilization is being measured. The more you get into the areas that become more and more refined, that are more and more intellectually sophisticated, the less civilization itself expects results. I mean, you hope for results. You go to a psychiatrist and you go into analysis for 20 years and spend 1/3 of your gross income for the last 20 years. I mean, who can blame you for hoping it might help? But that's what you're left with. And if you don't like that, if you think I'm picking on that, how about the church? You can go and give 10% of your thing to the church for the rest of your life. And of course they guarantee, yes, when you die, you will not be dead. And better than that, or maybe better than that, when you die, even if you're not dead, you won't be sorry. You won't go to real naughty places. You'll be glad you did it. Now talk about your hope. Well, those of you that got a chuckle out of that you go into analysis, and the more professional. I mean, if you go into a psychiatrist and you find somebody and you say, I'm very depressed. I say depressed a lot. I have trouble with sex. I can't hardly eat. I can't go outside, and sometimes I can't stay inside. Can you cure me? If you find a psychiatrist that takes notes and he says, no doubt about it, you're probably, I don't know for sure, but you're probably in a psychiatrist's office. You look around, you're probably somewhere in Mississippi. You find a guy that says, well, I can't guarantee results. I'm a professional. And so you say, well, how long are most people in analysis? And if he tells you the truth, he's probably going to say 20 years because most people are dead. By the time they start analysis, or maybe 30. He won't point that out. So the point is, what you're left with literally is, well, I hope this works. And of course he thinks, well, I hope it works a little too, or you get some benefit. That is what the professionals are. That is, the whole point of me going through this is for you to see, nobody thinks about it this way. That's why Kyroots did that, I would suggest or believe. Is the more you are in the full spotlight, the most active areas of civilization, the more you're in areas that seem to be intellectually uncertain, even as supported by the law, that the professions do not have to guarantee. In a sense, they're forbidden. You cannot force a professional to guarantee results. All he guarantees is to render professional service as is the norm, as the standard for your community. This guy does just the opposite. And at first, of course, you laughed until it got to the last sentence. And then some of you may not have heard it, so I went back over it. Of doing all this silly stuff, what the hell's that got to do with anything? But the guy points out, it will do nothing. But at least, by God, it's a certainty. And some of you think the humor is funny. Of course, for all I know, some of you need to be in analysis. I don't know that. I just... And Kyroots said, one old man told a kid, there are two ways that things can be known, by what happened and through I, and he spells it capital I, witness reports. And you might as well take your most useful shot at it, since the best one costs no more than the other one. I'm like you, he doesn't point out which one. So you didn't miss anything. He doesn't point out. The guy just says it. Jesus. Who in the hell knows what it means? Well, I do, but I ain't. We're going to number 27. It's many people's favorite number. The mayor of one city. Everybody picked out ones that's almost humor on the surface. Are we going to get to the one where the guy points, where Kyroots and a man points out about the thing about humor? If not, we'll see. And Kyroots said, the mayor of one city, and those of you who have been watching these shows for a long time, why have you been watching these for a long time? The mayor and the city, I think, represent, it's like not like being shot or the threat, it's like, I think, a metaphor. The mayor of one city called all the people together and gave them this message. Rather than being concerned over the state, the quality of your thinking, your intelligence, look at it like this. Having Gruber's syndrome is man's natural condition. Now go on home. My guess, well, he stepped out again. My guess is Gruber's syndrome represents almost anything. But to me, it represents, I think what he's trying to tell the people is, he's saying to people, don't be concerned over the quality of your intelligence. That is, no one in life is satisfied. The closer people are satisfied, the more dangerous they are, the more you'll stay away from them, and the more faithful they are to life. Life is proud of those people. Well, some of you can follow that. At any rate, just the middle class, the heart of life, people are not satisfied. You don't have to be psychotic. You don't have to be depressed to the point that you cannot even take your clothes off to go to bed. But just ordinary people are not satisfied. You're not supposed to be. People are trying to improve themselves, go to school, save up for, to get your nose raised or your chin lowered or something. You're supposed to be trying to improve yourself. If it's just to buy a new car, so it's your love life, your social life will improve, your status in the community. So everyone is trying to improve themselves. And Kyroots has already pointed out, many of you people know, all of that really amounts to, not that there's anything wrong having a new car, having a facelift, but what you're really trying to do is to extend your ability to think, is the basis of it. So, this mayor just went to the heart of it. God knows why, being an elected official, but he says, rather than being concerned over, but instead of saying over your position in life or how rich you are or what neighborhood you live in, which is all still metaphorical, he says, instead of being concerned over your state or the quality of your intelligence, look at it like this. Having Gruber's syndrome is man's natural condition. I suggest you, since we're running out of time, what he's sort of telling, should I have to do it? What he's sort of telling them, which a man wouldn't do this. He would not be mayor for as long as we could read this. What he is saying is, rather than being concerned over your state of intelligence, look at it this way. The state you're in, even being concerned, is Gruber's syndrome. That's where we all are. Now go home. I repeat, a mayor could not do that. No one in life can do that. Not and keep their job. Not and keep life from walking over and going. It's just the way it is. It's not up to a mayor to say, hey, everything's all right. It's hardly up to a priest or a rabbi. And that seems to be their job, except they can't guarantee it. They say, hey, are you now a member of this church? Are you paying up your dues? And you say, yes. And you say, in that case, everything's all right. And you say, do you guarantee it? And the priest or rabbi has to say, I'm sorry, sir, I'm a professional. I'm a professional man. I'm not allowed by law to guarantee results. And you can go away and think, well, by God, I hope I'm doing the right thing here. And of course, the priest and the rabbi and everybody else, they're thinking, boy, I hope I picked out the right job. Sometimes they sit around, maybe have a little sip of wine and think, I hope that part of this stuff I tell people, I hope just, if some of it's true. Who knows? The law of averages, remember? At least he wasn't born named Blaise Pascal. I guess that would. That will make you want to kind of pursue the theory of probability, wouldn't it? Of course, he could have been, born with a name Maurice Grunt Rapper or something. He could have been. And Kyroots said, one weekend at a pool party over at the secondary world's place, after the primary world had, shall we say, loosened up a bit, the primary world exclaimed, a man on a spree can sit on me. Addendum. That be the bottom of the page, says, some people are afraid of water, some of heights, but more civilized fun seekers seem most frightened of the basement. Refreshment, addendum. On this one world, they would not sell drugs to the brave, the non-afraid. How about that? Since we were talking about phobias, you want another version on the spot? How about this? On that same one world, I shouldn't do that. It'd make it worse. It had to do with people who had... I shouldn't do it. Fill in your own. It had to do with people that have a certain phobia having to do with, the indoors, as opposed to this one world failed just to accommodate them, since there would be some trouble trying to level out a roller coaster. That it had some hesitation in inventing the outdoors. Can you? Well, all right. I'm glad I didn't do it. I'll just repeat. On this one world, they would not sell drugs, alcohol, anything, drugs to the brave. And Kyroots said, anytime you can kick your hormones around, even just briefly, it's worthwhile, since they have one of the world's great memories. I would take that, nobody asked me, but as being some sort of encouragement to everybody else, ordinary people who think they're trying to help themselves. It's like someone saying, well, I would try to control my temper, or I don't know, all these years I keep having this desire to dress up like Jackie Kennedy and go hang around the docks. And I've tried to fight it, but I've been doing it so long. It's not something you can just go. Does anybody recall another Kyroot recently that says, the ordinary repent, a rebel quits? Which, those of you that are from Arkansas, it's like the difference between an alcoholic and a drunk. If you're a drunk, you don't have to attend those goddamn meetings. If you quit, you don't have to repent. If you quit, you don't even have to say you quit. Because if you quit and then say you quit, look where you are. That's like you came in the house and you think, well, my feet are clean. And as soon as you say that, you look down there and you have stepped in self-do again. 2 minutes. I assume this is serious. It's actually 2 minutes. Okay. Well, I'll read this one because there's been several things recently that nobody asked about, but it had to do with neatness and etc. that's been running through the last 2 or 3 nights of Kyroots. For those of you that I can imagine that you thought it was. One guy, you remember, was a Kyroot that said at his official work desk, as he sat there and looked, he thought, a neat drawer is a happy drawer. In fact, I think he said a tight drawer, but I think it threw too many of you. But here it is. Miss Etiquette, said Kyroot, received this inquiry. Dear Miss Etiquette, where does neatness count the most, in the primary world or the secondary world? And she said, you mean neatness counts in the primary world? You think about it, or if you don't want to. There's no one in here, if we don't get to it, if somebody didn't ask, that one guy described the primary, if you want to talk about neatness, described the primary world, the secondary world, as the primary world with his pants on. And probably not burping in public. That sort of thing. Here we go. Now, I guess we just got time to read. A certain rebel, and Kyroots said, diarist made this observation in his little notebook. Quote, all human organizations are pretenses for social affairs, or they're pretense social organizations. It's just that the revolution is a super pretense one. Would anybody care to consider that? What the guy is saying was like everything. Religions, just the prime example, in a sense is an excuse, which they don't need it, they just think they do. That's what civilization partly is. That's why you wear pants. It's an excuse. It's an excuse for not being naked. Is religion an excuse for a social organization? Bye. I guess we're out. Literally. And they don't know it. They're not supposed to, and there's nothing wrong. And all he's pointing out, in this crude way, or this contorted way, that the revolution is the same thing, except it's super so. Go ahead and cut, and we'll just go to audio, and I'll finish.